Hi, welcome to the third video in our VoltScript Venture series, VoltScript Dependency Management. My name is Rocky Oliver, and I'm one of the lead geeks at HCL Labs working on the VoltScript scripting language. Today, we're going to take a look at a new feature we've added to VoltScript, VoltScript Dependency Management. Simply put, dependency management allows you to retrieve any external resources you use in your VoltScript projects and keep them up to date. This also will handle any downstream or secondary hidden dependencies required by your repository you add. The two types of files managed by dependency management are VSEs or VoltScript extensions and VSSs or VoltScript script libraries. Just a reminder, VSEs are compiled extensions, usually written in C or C++, that add functionality to VoltScript. VSSs, on the other hand, are code libraries written in VoltScript that also add functionality to VoltScript. Generically, we refer to both of these as resources, and where you pull them from will be referred to as repositories for the purposes of this discussion. Now, most of the time, you're going to be pulling down publicly available resources written by HCL or business partners. However, you can set up your own web-based repository where you and your team can use dependency management to obtain and manage your reusable custom code as well. Side note, this feature is written entirely in VoltScript and is a VSS that is publicly available. Feel free to download it and look at the code and see how it works if you're curious. Now, before we dive into the code itself, I think it would be a good idea to explain the various parts required to successfully use dependency management. As covered in the previous videos, you'll need to have the VoltScript language support and VoltScript Build Manager extensions installed in VS Code. Build Manager is the extension that adds the dependency management functionality to VS Code. Now, the atlas settings.json is a file that lives in the .vss directory in your user or home directory. This file is used by dependency management in all of your VoltScript projects to define the credentials used to access the desired repositories. Atlas.json is a file that is project specific, so there'll be one in each of your VoltScript in your project's root directory. We'll go into more detail about doing this in a moment. Once you have your Atlas.json set up, make sure you have your Atlas settings JSON file in your .vss directory. Now you only need to set this file up once, as Dependency Manager will automatically access it as needed. You'll need to keep it updated whenever you add a new repository requiring credentials or if your password or tokens expire. Once we have those files set up, we'll run install dependencies in VS Code. Now, before we dive in, you should go ahead and make sure you have registered with and obtain the necessary credentials you'll need to access the HCL repositories. For the VoltMX Marketplace, you'll need to know your username and password. And for GitHub, you'll need to have obtained the security token. Now, it's outside of the scope of this video to explain how to get these things, but there are tons of resources available online to help you with it. As a side note, it is a very good idea to never store your credentials in easily accessible text files. Instead, you should store your credentials in environment variables in your environment and reference them in your text files, such as atlassettings.json. Now, I mentioned earlier that you should store your credentials in your environment settings in your operating system. Let me show you where that is for Windows real quick. So if you click on the Start menu and start typing environment, you'll get Edit the System Environment Variables. If you click that, you get a dialog box that shows you various things, and you want to click the Environment Variables button. When you click that, you get a nice little dialog box with your environment variables listed. To add a new environment variable, you want to add it to the user variables. So you click New, and you type in, say, demo user, and we'll give it a name of user1, and we'll say OK. And then let's add in a password. So we'll do demo password, and we'll just put in our fake password, and we'll say OK. And now we have these two new environment variables available that we can reference in our text files. Okay, so let's begin by creating our atlas.json. Now I've got one pre-baked up here that I'm going to use the contents for later on, but I want to show you how you would create an atlas.json from scratch. So you begin by creating a new file, and we're going to name it atlas.json. When you do that, if you come in here and start typing, you'll notice if you start typing Atlas, you can pull up a sample Atlas JSON. If you click on that, it'll pre-populate with all the tags you're going to need for your file. And it also indicates which ones are required and which ones are optional. So for instance, obviously name, description, things like that would be required. Uh, you could put in your author, which could be any text. It could be a name or an email or whatever. And you could have multiple. It's already set up as an array. You could do versioning and so on. Uh, the library is the name of your library. And the source directory is where your source files are kept. Test directory is an optional directory if you're going to have testing. You can use it. Libs is for your VSS library files that you can download from a repository, and VSEs is for your extension files that you can download from a library. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab the contents of my JSON actual that I already have pre-baked. It's a little cleaner and it only has the stuff that I need in it. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go ahead and move it back over to my Atlas JSON, and then we can go over the contents of it. So let's take a look at this. Now we have my name. I'm going to call this one Dependency Management Demo. Version number, a description, my name, the source directory for my source files. I have the test directory in case we do testing later. My main script's going to be called main VSS, which I've gone ahead and created. Libs directory, VSEs directory, and those are defaulted by the way. And then I've gone ahead and set up my repository location for the VoltMX marketplace. And I've also set up my GitHub repository location. And now I've gone ahead and defined two dependencies, or a dependency and a VSE dependency that I want to pull down. The dependency one contains the VoltScript console colors VSS, which allows you to do colors in your terminal screen and output colors to console. And then I have my VSE dependency. I'm going to pull down JSON VSE. Now, one question you might have is, how do I know what these dependencies should look like? Where do I get this information from? And the easiest place to get it from is from the documentation. If you go into the VoltScript documentation and into the references area, you can find VoltScript extensions and VoltScript library modules. If you go to VoltScript extensions and scroll down, you'll see that each of the repository's contents, or the metadata you need for it, is located here. And we have a handy little copy button here, so you can just copy the content from that block to the clipboard and paste it into your Atlas JSON. Same thing exists for the library modules as well. If you click on that one and scroll down, you'll see that there's blocks for each of the various VSS files that are available for download from GitHub. Now I want to show you that there's also helper text for Atlas settings.json. I'm going to go ahead and just create it here locally just to show you this helper, but we're going to actually go take a look at my real one in just a minute. So if you type in Atlas settings.json and we come in here and start typing again, we'll see that there's an Atlas settings and also a minimal one. Minimal one is just the basic for GitHub and for the VoltMX marketplace. So if we go to Atlas settings, you can see it's got basically a generic setup where you could see how you would lay out things for GitHub for a localized web server. This is where if you had your own repository, you could define it. And then you also have a place for marketplace, various ways to get that. But let's take a look at the minimal one real quick and see what it looks like. So I'll go ahead and clear this, and then we'll type Atlas again, and we'll choose the minimal Atlas settings. You can see all it's giving you is your GitHub and your VoltMX marketplace, which is usually what most people will need, at least to begin with, until you start using your own repositories. Okay, so now let's take a look at my atlas settings.json so you can see what it actually looks like. So we're going to click on Open File. And like I said before, you're going to find the VSS directory, or it should exist in your user directory on your system. So for me, that's under Rockney.Oliver. And you'll notice I already have a .vss directory because I've been using this for a while. But you could create the directory if it doesn't exist, and then just go into it and create your file, your atlas settings.json. Now I'm going to go ahead and open mine. And if we take a look at it, you can see that I have various things laid out. I've got GitHub 01, which is our internal enterprise GitHub repository for HCL. We have my public repository for GitHub, which is the one you'll be using. I have a Domino server that I'm using as a repository for localized files. This is so we could test the web server repository feature. And eventually in your own environment, this is one way that you could actually create a repository for storing your own shared code for your team. And then I have two set up for VoltMX Marketplace, one for the demo site, one for the main site. Right now, the one that you'll be using is the demo site. Eventually, that may meld over to the main site, but I was testing both of them. Also, I wanted to point out that you'll notice that I'm using my environment variables like I recommended earlier. And the way you would do that in this file is you use $ curly bracket env dot and then the name of the environment setting. So in this case, mine are GitHub O1 token. There's the tokens for GitHub, and then username and passwords for the marketplace. Um, remember earlier I used like demo user, demo password. That's where you would stick those right here. This would be demo user and demo password. Okay, now that we have all our prerequisites for dependency management installed, we've got our extensions installed in VS Code, we've got our atlas.json created, and we know our atlas-settings.json is created in the VSS directory, we can go ahead and run install dependencies. The way you do that is open up atlas.json, click into it, hit Control-Shift-P, and it's going to bring up a menu. If you start typing VoltScript, you'll notice that all of the VoltScript commands will jump to the top. And the one we care about is install dependencies. If we click on that, it's going to open a terminal window and start prompting us for the various options that we have. First thing is, what's our base directory, which is the current program or project directory. We'll accept the default. We'll accept the default for Atlas settings JSON because we know it's in our .vss directory. We'll accept the file path for Atlas JSON. It's in our project directory. We're going to go ahead and force download, and then we want to continue, so we hit enter. And then it'll start setting everything up for us. You'll notice it's running, it's grabbing its tokens, it's pulling down the files, it's creating the directories that we specified in our atlas.json. And if we take a look at those, you can see now we have our JSON VSE DLL in there. We also have some files required for licensing. We have our source directory, our test directory, and our lives. And we notice, remember we pulled down the console colors, which is what's used actually in dependency management to do all these various colors you see. We pulled those down. So everything worked correctly. The other thing you're going to notice is that a couple of other files were created. One is the effective Atlas JSON. This is a great tool to use for troubleshooting. This builds out an Atlas JSON that contains any uh, resources that were pulled down that were downstream dependencies. So let's say you had something like VoltScript collections, which requires various other libraries to be pulled down, DLLs and such. Then those would be listed here as well. And so this is a great way to see what it actually pulled down as a part of the installation process. The other thing that it created is the SETI-INI. Now, we have to have a way of pathing or making it easy to path in our projects to get to our DLLs, our VSSs. And the way that we do that is we use a SETI-INI. And by doing this and putting where the path is, you can have it for various OSs. So let's say you're writing locally on Windows, but you know that the code's actually going to run on a Linux server. And we know that they use dynamic link libraries, so it's a little different than a DLL. So we have to have the correct pathing for both. By using the SETI-INI, it allows us to reference our VSEs by name instead of by literal path. That means that I can go into my main VSS, and let's say I want to use that JSON VSE. The way I would do it is I would come here and I would type use VSE, and then I would do an asterisk, which tells it to look in the SETI-INI, and I would do JSON VSE. You'll notice the squigglies went away, and now JSON VSE is available to me for use in my code. Well, that's everything we're going to cover in today's video. Next time, let's jump into actually using a VSE. We're going to use the JSON VSE. I'm going to show you what kind of functionality it brings to the table for you. I think you'll find it quite useful. Until next time, take care.